Well, good Monday evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. We do it every week, and it's been a lot of fun so far. My name is Andrew Pfeffer. I'm actually located outside of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, in Altoona, Wisconsin, which is in the northwest part of the state, for those of you who aren't familiar. A little bit closer to the Minnesota border than I am to the Milwaukee area, which is where we're going to be heading tonight. But nonetheless, it's a great bowling community, as I hope yours is too. And lots of great stuff from our show. Despite being in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. A couple of things that I wanted to mention before we get going with our guest tonight. Congratulations to Tom Hess. If you're familiar with Tom Hess, he is the reigning PBA 50 Tour Player of the Year. And earlier today, he won the singles, the gold medal in singles at the 2021 IBF Masters World Championships in Dubai. So congratulations to him. What a great accomplishment. Really capping off what has been probably one of the best senior seasons by a professional that we've ever seen. Just really amazing stuff from him. And congratulations to him on what is an incredible accomplishment and really a line of accomplishments. Another thing I wanted to mention was that we're all pulling for the great tour legend Mark Roth. If you didn't see over the weekend, in a social post, his wife was basically calling on his fans to do some praying for the 34-time PBA Tour titleist. His health has kind of taken a turn. And he's had some health problems over the years. If you recall, we did have Marshall Holman on one of our early episodes. And that was almost a year ago. And back then he had asked that if you're the praying kind, say a prayer for Mark Roth, because his health hadn't been so well back at that point. So, of course, all of us here at Bowling with the Fef are thinking of Mark Roth and his family, hoping that he has a better outcome health-wise and can go on with his life. He's, like I said, 34 times a PBA Tour champion, really revolutionized the sport and one of the greatest to ever do it. So best wishes to Mark Roth and his family. Want to let you know that Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. Raise your snack standards is the slogan. It's a local company in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, is where it is born and raised, making salsas and relishes and all kinds of other products. Check in your local grocery store in the Milwaukee area. You might want to see Sendik's or maybe Woodman's Festival Foods. They all have Chip Magnet on the shelves. And if you don't see it, ask for it by name. You can try the cilantro lime variety, which I have right here. It's a milder variety, but they also have medium versions and hot versions, if that's more your thing. Again, Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards. So as I mentioned, we are heading down to the Milwaukee area, which is where I'm originally from, for tonight's episode to see our guest, John Megna, Sussex, Wisconsin. He is a pro shop owner and expert, longtime member of the Wisconsin and Milwaukee USBC Halls of Fame. John, it is a pleasure to have you on Bowling with the Fef. Oh, hopefully he's still there. Looks like the screen got a little frozen. Oh, you there, John?
My pleasure to be here.
There we go. All right. John, you had mentioned to me before the show that you've actually met Mark Roth. And that being the case, I figured I'd ask you about, your thoughts on Mark and maybe his career. Like I said, a lot of us recognize him as having really revolutionized the sport when he was in his prime in the late 70s.
Oh, yes. He was the first true cranker. And the reason I'm in the pro shop business was because my thumb looked like his when I was young and bowled a lot. And I thought there's got to be a better way. And I should have bought stock in New Skin because I went through it by the box. And that's actually how I got started drilling bowling balls.
Okay. All right. When you met him, did you meet him in the Milwaukee area or somewhere out of town?
Yes. I believe it was at Bolero. I actually got to bowl a game with him. And that was so cool. He was one of my idols.
Yeah.
Obviously.
What a thrill.
Great guy too.
And that's always good to hear because, we always see our heroes on TV not knowing, what they're truly like. And I've heard that from multiple people that that he's a very nice guy.
Yeah. Super guy.
Great. Well, John,
and
we
really made it a joy to bowl with him, which some of those guys weren't.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead,
John. We want to get into your bowling story, of course, because there's a lot to it, and we don't want to take too much of your time. But I read that you got started in the sport when you were 13 years old. How did it end up happening that you started bowling?
Friend decided we were going to go, and I fell in love with it. I obviously was not built for football or sports really, but bowling, I could compete, and I just fell in love with it and took off from there. And I started bowling down Oriental Lanes, which is now Landmark Lane on the Milwaukee. And Levo and his dad took me under their wing and coached me. And I got good pretty quick. Early age, by the time, that was pretty good.
You mentioned getting started at Oriental Lanes, as you said, now Landmark Lanes, and many of us now who have been there know it as as it is. You go down Farwell Street, you go down that flight of stairs, and there it is. What was it like when you started?
Yeah. You're kind of breaking up there. I didn't quite get that.
Oh, no, I wanted to know what Oriental Lanes was like back when you started, because a lot of us just have, the memories, the knowledge of it as Landmark.
It was downstairs from the Oriental Theater, and a basement bowling alley was not really uncommon then. There was 5 back that used pin setters. They weren't automatic pin setters. And actually, I did set pins a couple times. But it was a family-run business by Marty Olivo and his son, and it was just fun. It was great to bowl there.
Yeah.
And they had a junior team bowled with that.
Okay. Was the junior program back then similar to those that we see today, or was it different?
Yeah. Oh, way different. There was limited coaching, uh, um, limited participation. It was a whole different game. Uh, you really had to kind of learn on the fly and by yourself. Just, I was fortunate, like I say, to have Marty's son, Marty, who really he knew my game better than I did, and he coached me almost my entire life.
Yeah. Would you say in those early days you were coachable?
As a matter of fact, oh yeah, very coachable. Marty often said I could tell him to do it, and he would do it.
Yeah. Because I can tell you
Invented, by the way.
Yeah, I can tell you in my early days I was not. So that's good to hear that at least one of us was. Tell me, do you remember the first time?
Him, man.
Oh. Go ahead. You said there was trust there.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I cut you off. I was gonna say that you said there was trust there. You trusted him.
Yeah, I trusted Marty's coaching me, and that's why I what he told me to do, and I was fortunate enough to have talent that he would tell me to do something, and I could do it.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time that someone drilled up a bowling ball for you?
Are we breaking up here, or what?
Yeah, a little bit. I was asking if you remember the first time you had a bowling ball drilled up for you.
Yes, it was by Al Copus, and it was a Trackmaster, Brunswick Trackmaster. My dad took me there, and first bowling ball, and went wild from there.
What was the point where you decided that this is something that you need to do? Drill bowling balls. I mean, you said that your thumb was at one point as bad as Mark Roth's.
Boy, I missed that whole question.
Oh, that's okay. I was gonna say, at what point did you decide that drilling bowling balls was something that you wanted to do?
Oh, well, because of my thumb, I was bowling. Oh, I was bowling constantly, sometimes all day and all night. And my thumb just looked like hamburger. And even my family said I looked like Frankenstein thumb. And I thought, well, I see other guys that bowl a lot and their thumb doesn't look like this. Maybe I can find out a reason. So I did some research. I bought some books. I visited a couple pro shops, and that's how I got started. Try to save my own thumb.
Did it take a long time to learn how to drill bowling balls?
You see, I could say I'm still learning today. Uh, every hand is different. You get arthritis, you get missing discs, you get it's a constant learning. Yeah, it's better, I must say, but never a cure-all. You can't satisfy everyone.
Yeah, everybody is a little different, I suppose, and you have different, even flexibility in each finger can change. Oh. I'm not sure if you heard that last part. I'm going to try and dial in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
John, I'm going to try and dial in and see if we can't get a better connection on the phone.
Changes. I have gotten, and I changed my grade and progressed in life. I'm sure
Yeah, we're having, I guess, some trouble connecting here. Let me see if I can get you on the line on the phone instead. That might be a safer bet here, because I do want to continue the conversation. It might be a little bit easier if we go about it this way.
Hello.
Hey, John, you there?
Yes.
Okay, good. I figured this way might be a little easier just because we were having the connection problems. And in the meantime, what I can do is throw up at least a picture of you that I have here. I have one. And we can just talk like this. This is actually how Tom Kohl and I conducted an interview, and it worked all right. But yeah, sometimes the technology doesn't cooperate as well as it should, and you end up getting like this. But you were saying about the differences that people have, when they come in, to have a ball drilled.
Oh yeah. Usually, it's a pretty standard, basic idea of fitting, and not always, but I usually was able to fit them well the first time. But they often would have to come back for adjustments. And if they didn't come back, if they went somewhere else and complained, I couldn't do my job.
Yeah, sure. Was there a lot of trial and error in those early days to try and get it right?
Absolutely, there was.
Yeah.
And mostly the trial and error was on myself. I tried not to experiment on customers. That wouldn't be a good idea. So either my friends that bowled with me or myself, there would be trial and error there.
Yeah. I was talking with Gus Yannaris, and he told me that you used to bowl the Metro Tuesday nights. That's what he said when he remembered about, when I asked him about how you two met. He said he wanted to emulate you and other top players from that league. Can you tell me about that league, where it was, and what it was like to bowl in that league?
It actually started out as the Masters Home League, which was down at Strakota Millshore on Capitol Drive.
Sure.
And there were 8 teams, and every team had a sponsor. Every team had a uniform, and they were the best bowlers in the city of Milwaukee. And for some reason, that ended up at Blue Mound and became the Metro.
Okay.
And I just loved that league.
Yeah.
It was who's who of bowling.
Do you remember meeting Gus for the first time?
Oh boy. Probably not until he went on tour.
Ah.
That's my earliest memory of Gus.
Yeah. Okay. I also asked Chad, about your show or about your shop. And he remembered that, at any time you could walk into Megna's and people would just be sitting on the couch, chilling out, talking. And that was obviously special enough to him bring it up. Is that, I guess, an atmosphere that you had kind of envisioned when you started out in that?
Not really. It kind of migrated into that. Gus, as a matter of fact, called it Floyd's from Andy Griffith.
Floyd's Barbershop.
Where almost at any time of day, you're right, there would be somebody sitting on the couch, passing time, talking bowling. It really was a great atmosphere.
Yeah. Is that is that a tough endeavor to break into, to run your own pro shop, or is that something that worked right away for you?
No, I opened my first shop in 1974 on Farwell and Lafayette. It lasted 1 year. It was kind of a bust, but I had to close it up. And boy, then I went to work for the Red Carpets. I worked for, actually, I worked for Joe Serrano for a while. I worked at Pinky's Bowl. I was manager, pro shop operator. And then I worked for Don Tiardo, and he had a number of bowling pro shops. And it led to me buying half of one of the shops with Don, and eventually bought him out completely. And that's when my business took off.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting path.
Yeah, I'll say, but it certainly worked out. Were you always on South 92nd, or was there a different location in that shop that you had with Ciardo?
That was on 98th and Oklahoma, a little strip mall there. Actually, there were 2 places in that strip mall, the original, and then I moved 2 doors down when I bought Don out. And then I moved to 92nd Street, and I'm guessing that was in the early 80s, 83 maybe, somewhere in there.
Ah, okay. So, you're running the shop, but you're also competing. Like you said, you got good. You turned out to be, one of the best competitors in the Milwaukee area. Did those two things ever conflict, the competition versus the business?
Well, yes and no. I tried to compete as much as I could, but trying to run a business and not being there to bowl was not beneficial. So there were many tournaments that I had to pass up, but I hit all the big ones. City, state, nationals, state match games, bowling with the champs. I tried to hit all those. And I had people working for me, luckily, that could watch the shop on that day that I was gone.
Okay. How about in 1979 when you won the state tournament team title? Who was on your team and how did it feel to win? I mean, I'm assuming it's like it is now where you bowl and then you hope your score holds up. Is that how it was then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I bowled with Jim Palt, Jack Connaughton, Mike Straney, and a baby-faced Gary Darashevsky. And we won the scratch title that year. And we also won the state match team event that year.
Okay. So
and then we broke up. That's crazy thing.
Too much success?
Yes. No, if I remember right, Jack Connaughton moved. Went to Indiana, I want to say, but that kind of broke the team up.
Sure. Okay. So then in 1984, you and Chris Kobus win the ABC Open Championship doubles. You were talking about that with the Journal Sentinel a few years back, and you mentioned that he shot 743 and you shot 640. And you said that 640 was incredible because you were bowling so bad, going in. What did it, how bad was it? And what do you remember about what it took to kind of turn things around?
Well, the day before in team event, I think I shot like 480.
Oh, wow.
I was horrendous. And I remember the next day Marty had a booth at the time selling strikers. Okay. And I went to Marty and I said, put me in a striker. And he put me into a striker. I shot, what did I have? Like 230 the first game, about $180 the second game. And Chris was just on fire. And I was so inspired. I shot 250 something the last game, just sheer willpower. It was so much fun because watching Chris, and I owe a lot to wearing that striker. I think that helped me tremendously.
Yeah, I think I remember that. That's a wrist device. Did it have like the pointer finger up, or was it a different design than that?
No, that was the Cobra.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah, Marty's device really limited your wrist movement, side to side, forward and back. It locked you into one position, and it was easy to release the ball the same way every time.
Yeah,
and it helped me get through that day anyway.
Sure. I was messaging back and forth with Chris. He remembered that the team that was leading at the time was Ron Wheeler and Mark Kuglich, and that they would have been the first team in the history of ABC and USBC tournament to win doubles twice.
Yes, it was. They teased us about it, knocking them off, but they were gracious. They both were customers later on, great people, and I was sorry we knocked them off, but of course I was happy to do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, winning an Eagle is a big accomplishment. Did you ever go on to do PBA tour events, national, regional, anything like that?
I bowled a few with not a lot of success. It was, I wasn't bowling enough and I wasn't sharp enough that I could win at that level.
Yeah. Around this time, the makeup of bowling balls is changing too. You go from
Holy cow.
plastic to urethane, and then a few years later in the early '90s, from urethane to reactive. How was it for you to be the expert in these new technologies when they're just being offered to people for the first time?
That took a lot of research and me drilling up new equipment constantly to get an idea of what or how they would react. The biggest move, I believe, was urethane to resin, because the back end of resin was so much stronger than urethane. The Excalibur,
Yep.
I believe, was the first resin that Mark McDowell, I believe, won with,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And what a change that was. Holy cow.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, you could see it on TV, the difference.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
sure could.
When I was talking with Gus, he mentioned a time when he came into your shop and he needed a thumb slug drilled. And he said, you know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Oh, my goodness.
So he said you drilled it, and he took it and tried to bevel the edges with a sanding disc, but he took too much material off of the slug. So he said you took out a new one, only to have the same thing happen, and a third, only to have it happen again. And on the fourth, Gus said that you went and did it yourself, but that he saw a bevel knife fly across the room.
That was my Italian temper coming out. It wasn't aimed at him or anyone. It just went flying into the back door. And it did stick too. I love that guy, but he he got me that day.
He also made a point to mention that if there was somebody who maybe was needed help and maybe couldn't afford pro shop services, that you would help people out like that. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a grand gesture for really someone in any business to do, let alone in the bowling business, where, let's face it, every customer counts for a lot.
Well, true. It is a business. However, it's not as much of a job if you love it. And I just absolutely loved it. And the satisfaction of helping people, that was better than any payment that I could get monetarily. Someone's first 300, first 700, first 800, just overwhelming satisfaction. And that's really what the business was all about.
Yeah. Gus said that he thought you had somewhere along the line of 18 Eagle winners getting their bowling equipment drilled from you.
I never counted, but that's very possible. Man, I drilled for a lot of good bowlers. Gus says, and I got to agree with him, I had the best stable of bowlers in the city of Milwaukee, by far.
Yeah, certainly sounds like it. Tell me, Tom Kohl came on the show, as I mentioned earlier, episode 29, and we briefly mentioned the final episode of the bowling game, which you were involved in. How did you end up on that show, and what happened when the cameras started rolling?
I believe they asked Dennis Yetter and myself to be doubles partners with Tom and Lee.
Yep.
And I knew it was their final show, and I believe they kicked our butts, but that was fun. And Tom Kohl and I became very good friends. He also became a customer. Lee was not much of a bowler, but what a great guy, and great in the studio. And it was just fun. It wasn't that we were competing for money or anything. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. How big a deal was, having that show, having Bowling with the Champs, on TV in the Milwaukee area, when it comes to the bigger picture of growing the sport?
Oh, man. The bowling game was probably one of the most popular bowling shows of all time. Bowling with the Champs was on for 30 years?
Yeah,
I believe. We were all terribly sorry to see that fall by the wayside. Great bowling programs that lasted a long time. And the nice thing about the bowling game, it was for your average bowler. It wasn't for us elite bowlers. It was for your average Joe, your league guy who went to have fun and have a few beers. And they got to go on television and bowl. And the response was fantastic. They just loved it.
Yeah. Of course, the popularity ends up waning over the years, and a lot of centers in the area, like Doysters, Strakotas, many of the red carpet that became AMF, ended up closing up. A lot of them are gone. If there was one that you could bring back, which one would it be, and why?
Probably Strakota Millshore, because that's where I bowled my first 300 game. 1968.
Oh, wow.
October 8th. I was 20 years old. I couldn't even have a drink to celebrate. Lanes 17 and 18. The second game.
Okay.
I remember, I'll never forget. I started with a 162 game. I struck out in the 10th for 162. Then I shot 300. And then I shot 254. And I'll never forget the headlines the next day. Billy 60, Megna Blast 716. John Megna opened with a feeble 162 game and proceeded to shoot 760. Yeah. I'll never forget.
So, another big score that you ended up with came in 2005 at the state senior singles championship, and you won that whole thing with a 753. Take us through, that set. What do you remember about that set, and how good did it feel to win that title?
Oh, that felt great. That was one of the few titles that I didn't have, was a senior title. I can't remember how many years I had bowled seniors before that, but that set really could have been more. I really bowled well that day. And again, my doubles partner was Greg Ragaman, who his alias was Greg Kelly. And I bowled so in doubles with him. And then we went to singles, and I exploded. And he'll never let me hear the end of it.
Naturally.
Yeah, I did that a few times at nationals with Gary Odeker. The year I took over the lead in singles, I did not bowl so great in doubles. It's just crazy how it can turn on a dime, and you catch lightning in a bottle, and boom.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to thank, at this point, I want to thank Will Welch. He actually provided the picture that is up on the screen right now of you holding a picture of yourself jumping in the air. And it says Kentucky on the top.
Yes.
I'm assuming, is that the national doubles title?
No, that was when I took over the lead in singles in 1980 in Louisville.
Ah, okay.
And I shot 747, and I had the lead until like, I want to say a week to go, and I got knocked off 3 times.
Oh.
I ended up 4th.
That's how that goes sometimes.
Yeah.
So Will told me this story about when he first came to town from Florida, and he's on our, he came on our show a couple months ago, more than a couple. It was back in August, but he said that the first time he ever met you, he was new to Milwaukee. And he was working not even a month into running the Bowler's Mart location inside Bolero. He said he had some chairs out in the store for customers to sit down while waiting or trying on shoes. He says this older gentleman comes in, sits down with a glass of wine, and just starts a real pleasant conversation, probably for about a half an hour. He says he comes to find out it's one of his biggest competitors in the pro shop, John, and he was such a delight to talk to that night. Even as a competing pro shop, he says you made him feel welcomed pretty early. Do you remember that? And, maybe what made you head over and talk to him at that moment?
Probably curiosity. I had heard that this kid from Florida, and to me, he's just a kid, was very good. And I wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. And I just sat down and started talking, and very knowledgeable for a man of his age. And it just... so he's a competitor. You don't have to be mean and rude to someone. It was a pleasure to talk to him.
Yeah. He says, fast forward 3 years, and, after him selling the business, we're both consultants and helping Chad Kloss build the business now known as Bowler's Headquarters. Kind of funny how stuff like that happens, isn't it?
Isn't that crazy? And that reminds me, I'm so glad that I picked Chad to sell it to. He's just done wonderful. He's as passionate as I was. He's gaining more knowledge and experience all the time. He's very good already, but he's still learning, and he knows it, and he wants to do even better. I'm tickled pink that he's in there, and wow, it's almost 5 years already. June of 2017. Holy cow.
Yeah. Chad told me that you are like a second father to him. He said that you had the shop for 40 years and that you are truly the best this business has ever seen, and that he's truly blessed to have been taught from you. I would think to teach someone to do that kind of thing is kind of a tall order. Is that how you saw it, or did you think it would be, pretty smooth?
Well, I thought it would be smooth because Chad was so willing to learn and listen and apply what I was telling him. I threw an awful lot at him in a hurry, and he really scooped it up, and and I could see the passion, and that's why he wanted to learn it so much. It was a very smooth transition. Originally, it was he and another guy. I won't mention names. Didn't work out, and it ended up to be Chad alone. And I'm just tickled. I wish I could be there more. I've had these stupid health issues with 2 back surgeries and other things, but I want to get back in there, but I'm just not able to yet. I'm going to, though. Damn it.
Yeah. He, like you, he mentioned that, the shop is like Floyd's barber shop. And he said he wanted to make sure that the tradition, along with, like the Christmas get together and other traditions that you started, stay around forever. Is that something that was important to you when you turned it over to him, or is that something that was almost a bonus that kind of came along with it?
I think that's a bonus, that he would want to keep up the traditions that I started. Every Christmas Eve, I would get ham and rolls and, chips and potato salad and soda, and we would just sit around and celebrate Christmas in the pro shop. We didn't do a lot of business that day, but it was a time for bowlers to get together and have fun and be a family. And I'm going to start crying. Chad is like a second son to me. He's the same age as my son, or is he a year older? I forget. But anyway, he's a wonderful kid. He had some reputation as, well, I don't want to go there, but he's totally different than what I had heard about him. He came to me as a customer, quite a few years before we ever talked about the pro shop. And I could tell he was really interested in it. He started drilling stuff and learning. He was just so open to help. It made it easy, and it was like I say, a smooth transition. And like you said, it was a bonus that he wanted to carry on. He calls my legacy.
Yeah. Chad was a tremendous competitor, when I bowled down there in that area in the late 90s and into 2000. But he also said that you helped him a ton when he went on tour. How do you remember getting him ready for that kind of jump?
The only way, that kid is so talented. I couldn't teach him anything really about the game. What I did was equipment. What are you going to need as far as what conditions are you going to be on? Okay, then you need this ball and you need this drilling and you've got to do this with this ball. And that was the only help that I could really offer him, because he is just an amazing talent when it comes to bowling.
Yeah.
He can do anything he wants with a bowling ball.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So last year, you get inducted into the Wisconsin State USBC Hall of Fame. And you mentioned that Gus had nominated you many times. Can you tell me how you found out that you got in and what it was like to give that speech and be among the elite in the state?
Yeah, I got turned down. I don't know how many times, 5, 6 years. I don't know, many years. And finally, one day I got a call from Don Hildebrand, who was the director or president at the time of the state association,
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Oh, now what?" He said, "You're in." I started bawling. I mean, I had looked forward to that for originally. I still hold a grudge a little bit. My first year eligible, the requirement was one state title. Well, I had one state title.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was turned down, I asked why. And I was told, well, we're looking for people with 2 titles. I said, okay, what are the qualifications needed? He said 1, and yet you're looking for people with 2. And this went on for, I don't know how many times I was turned down. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And when that call came in, I was just elated. And I'll never forget, all my kids came to the banquet. My grandchildren were there. It was one of the biggest days of my bowling life.
Yeah. Thank goodness that Jeff Riggles had the foresight to record some video of that. That's how I got to see your speech and kind of enjoy some of that from afar.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
And thanks to him, probably his input helped get me in to the Hall of Fame, because he said, this is a travesty. How can John Megna not be in the Wisconsin Hall of Fame? Yeah. And I to this day, I thank him.
Yeah. I know it was him throwing the bowling ball, but Gus told me that you put him in 3 Halls of Fame.
My buddy Gus, he credits me with a lot of his success. But what I told Gus, and I tell Chad, and I tell actually every customer that if I think of telling them, a bowling ball is like a hammer, a screwdriver, a pliers. It's a tool. If you pound your thumb with the hammer, it's not the hammer's fault. It's a tool. You have to throw it. You have to use it. And Gus gives me way more credit than I deserve. Gus, when Gus went out on tour, he was just a puppy, and he was not very good. And he'll admit it. But there's another guy who learned and sucked up knowledge and practiced and became great. Not just good, great. And that's why he's in 3 Halls of Fame.
Yeah. Back to Chad, he said that there's nothing more rewarding than being able to continue your legacy, and that they hope that you're able to come back again soon. And you expressed the same thing. Are you close?
No, I'm having severe leg issues. I think my first back surgery gave me irreparable nerve damage. And I have a lot of trouble walking and even just standing. And I'm trying to strengthen them. I had a second surgery. The surgeon thought, well, maybe we can bring it back. Well, it didn't work. He told me, though, that it still could come back. Nerve damage takes a long time to heal. So I pray every day that I can come back. I'm going to keep fighting.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Yeah. I haven't bowled in, 2 years now. I haven't golfed in 2 years. Those were my 2 passions. That's what I live for, bowling and golf. And I haven't been able to do either, and it's just killing me.
Yeah, I bet.
But I'll keep fighting. I'll get there.
Yeah. And you take the solace in the fact that a lot of folks at Bowlers headquarters and in the Milwaukee area are pulling for you and have your best interest at heart as well.
I know they do. When my birthday comes up, I get more love. It's like I say, it was a business. Yes, it gave me a living. I sure as hell didn't get rich. I raised a good family. All my kids had everything they needed. But it wasn't a job. It was a passion. And people remember that. And it makes me very proud.
Yeah, I bet. And, like I said, those folks at Bowlers headquarters are very proud of you and are honored to carry on your legacy, which is awesome to see. I think that's a big part of the history of bowling in the Milwaukee area, which I hold dear, and good to see that that's being carried out.
And I also want to thank you for the show that you do every week. It's something this community was lacking for forever. It's great that you're bringing bowling back to the forefront, albeit on YouTube, but it's something.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your effort.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. And, like you, bowling is my passion too. And, it was a kind of a labor of love, good opportunity to talk about something that I love, both to talk about and to do, although, I haven't had the kind of success that you have, but, we're trying every week to get a little better, right?
Yeah, that's all you can do, buddy.
Yeah. John, as you know, we have you go off the sheet on this show, and that means you challenge somebody else. Somebody else in the bowling community. Doesn't have to be the most elite player, highest average in the world, but rather somebody who's passionate about the sport like you are and has a unique story to tell. So, John Megna, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
I would like to challenge. Well, I'm sure Chad has been challenged.
Yep,
correct?
and he's on the schedule. He's coming up in a few weeks here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Then I would like to challenge Joe Natoli, who has, I don't know how many stories he can tell on air, but he went on tour at a very young age, and Joe is he's wonderful guy, and I'm sure he's got some great stories. I would like to see Marty Alibo, the inventor of the striker, on the show. And one of my, actually my first partner, Don Ciardo. I would like to see him on the show.
All right. Well, I love it when people go off the sheet with a 3-bagger. That's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah, that's how you go off the sheet.
Yeah. So, all three of you, please, if you're interested, let me know. You can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com, or you can DM me on Facebook if you're there. My name is Andrew Pfeffer, and I would love to share your bowling story and get you on the schedule. Our next live stream is coming up on November 30th, 6 p.m. Central, and we have a gentleman that you may have crossed paths with coming on next week, and that's Lenny Borsch Jr.
Oh, wow. There is a guy that has gotten better and better and better as he gets older. He's amazing. Incredible talent.
Yeah.
And sugar won't melt in his mouth. He is such a sweet guy.
Well, yeah, he's. I believe Gus was one of the ones who's challenged him. He responded right away, and it's going to be a pleasure to talk bowling with him again. Tuesday, November 30th, 6 p.m. Central. John, it has been a blast talking bowling with you. like I said, I'm pulling for you. We hope you can get back to the pro shop soon.
Well, thank you so much. And it has been a pleasure talking with you, Andrew, and continued success. And I will sure be watching.
All right. I appreciate that. Everybody, be just and fear not. We will see you again next week.